Hi, Dmitry. Thanks for joining us. If you'd like to go ahead and start with a short introduction of yourself, that'd be great.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to you and to all of my colleagues. I'm Dmitry Anopchenko. I'm US correspondent of Inter channel, Ukrainian television. Oh, I started my career at 19 in the small local station in my hometown in Odessa in Ukraine. And I'm in my 40s. I was a news presenter of the show number one in the country, Sunday News Issue. I was London correspondent, and for the last 5 years, I'm US correspondent for my channel.
Fantastic. It's such a pleasure to speak with you today. What did your career look like in Ukraine, and how did it change when you moved to America?
Oh, it's completely different. So when I started, it was the small local town, and no one believed that you can even work in the capital for the huge channel, like channel number one, like my channel. And, once when I become London correspondent, a friend told me, it's your job is a dream of the generations of the student of the University of International Relations. So if anyone is asking about, some cherished dream, about some cherished work, and everyone will tell you, oh, I'd like to work as a foreign correspondent for the Ukrainian television, but it will never happen. So it happened in my life. And when I moved to America, it's completely different experience. People are open. Yes means yes, no means no. When you want an interview, you got an answer immediately. I got US officials who came to speak to me for like 5 minutes during their lunch, but anyway, you got an answer, you got the interview. So I'm extremely lucky to be here and to work in America.
How does it feel to be a Ukrainian journalist these days covering the war in your country as a foreign correspondent in DC? And what has your coverage of the war looked like in the past few days?
I thank you for this question. My previous life, it was such a happy life of the correspondent who is in Washington, who is traveling through America, who is interviewing people, who is visiting State Department or White House. But right now, honestly, it's challenging. It's super challenging because in my past life, I made a lot of stories about refugees, about the conflicts. I was myself in Afghanistan making the series of stories, but I got my feelings to those people, but it always was just a job. Right now, it's challenging because it's about my country. It's about the hometown which I grew up. It's about the city where I lived when I was in Kiev, and that building is totally destroyed. You are reporting about the conflict, and I was taught all my years that you have to show two sides. You have to show all the opinions, but gosh, how you can show two opinions in the situation when it's a war in your country? So it's challenging, it's difficult, and it's super emotional, unfortunately.
Yeah. Have you ever, in the past few weeks, have you thought about going back at all and joining the journalists there, or are you staying in DC?
I got these thoughts when my part of my family were in Kiev, and city were blocked. There were two metro stations just to sleep, just to hide, because it was hard bombing. And I got a feeling, I got the thoughts that maybe I have to fly to Ukraine, not to Ukraine, because all the airports are destroyed, but to Poland, and just to try just to skip the border, just to take them out of there. But at the same time, I understand that it's impossible. Thanks God, they're safe now. They're in Western Ukraine. My brother is still in Odessa, in my hometown, and he told he will not leave the town. He will just take the gun and will fight. So I understand that okay, all that I can do for my family, my friends, my audience, my people, for all the Ukrainians I know and even I don't know, is to inform, is to tell about the American support, is to do my job, and to do my job, as good as I can.
Yeah. So you're right there in DC. Can you describe to us your feelings when you participate in State Department press briefings on the topic of the war of Russia against your country?
Oh, it's mixed feeling. From one hand, all the briefings in State Department and I'm very often in Pentagon, mostly they're about Ukraine and about Russia and about this war. I'd like to share with you, I was touched when I just was in one state organization, I will not mention it, and I saw the US official. She came to me and she just hugged me without telling any word and just went out. And I understand that US officials, they have to play by the rules. Possibly they even can't do it. I mean, to show their altitude or to show their personal opinion. So because it's just the job, they're not in the private conditions. It's not a private conversation. But I was extremely touched when I felt that people here in the US government and the State Department, it's not only the job for them. They support my country, they support Ukrainians. Oh, at the same time, what I saw that my colleagues, the other journalists, they are mostly concentrated on troops movement, on what's going on from the political point of view. And my feeling is completely different because I'm mostly thinking about people. I'm mostly thinking about people I know or I don't know who are just trying to escape, who are just trying to hide somewhere in the basement. So my feeling is that every story which is on the TV screen right now should be more about people and less about politics.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a way that other journalists can maybe empathize more in the reporting?
I think so. I think that maybe it was even my way when I followed some conflicts in the world, when I just told about some refugee story. I was under the situation and I just told about official position, official figures, some statistics. Right now, because it hurts, because it's my country, because it's my life and a part of my life, I felt that and I honestly think that this part of the stories, they always should have this, people opinion or some people point of view, because time to time we were just telling about, the troops movement and what's going on in the country, but behind every troops movement, behind every struggle, behind every shot, it's a people's life. And I guess right now, and I honestly think right now, it's much more important.
What are the most effective ways that people can support Ukrainian journalists in this moment?
One thing is, just a sign of support, even a smallest sign. From here, from America, when you are not a part of this, maybe it means nothing, but I spoke with a lot of people in my country. I spoke with my friends, my family. I'll give you an example. When the U.S. a lot of congressmen, they went to the joint session and even to State of the Union President's speech, and they got the small Ukrainian flag on the jackets. Maybe it was nothing for for Americans, just a small sign, but it was a lot for Ukrainians. When people are more open with me right now because I'm Ukrainian reporter. When I feel this personal support, it helps a lot. It helps a lot to stay strong as a person, because I have to be strong. I don't have the right, to cry or to be upset. I have to do my job as good as I can.
Yeah.
So I think the personal altitude, I think the personal, small things which are personal is the most important right now. When you feel this support, when you feel that your story is interesting, when you feel that your country is interesting to other people, it helps a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot that definitely Ukrainian journalists can be feeling right now, and there's a lot that maybe has to be put aside to get the job done. but what kind of challenges have you and your colleagues encountered in your coverage of this invasion?
Mostly there are a lot of fakes. There are a lot of fakes, even in the news media. I'm not telling about the social networks. So, from one hand, I perfectly understand that military guys or some people who are in charge of the informational war, they're trying to push and to promote their fakes. From the other hand, maybe just the ordinary people, they're trying to support, they're trying to tell that, okay, it will be okay and it's okay, and they're sharing those fakes. There are a lot of video clips and a lot of photographs which were made not in Ukraine, not during this war, but like 5, 7, 8 years before, or in different countries or in different parts of the world. So you have to check and you have to double check every shot, every photo, every frame of the video. From another point of view, the access to the information is the challenge. But right now, as a Washington correspondent, I feel that I got all the access. Almost every day I'm in Pentagon. I was given my badge. They expedite, the accreditation process. So I got this chance to give the information, to take the information from the first hands. I'm very often in the State Department. So, but the fakes are the challenge.
What's a major fear that you have at this moment, given the dramatic developments in your country?
I'm trying not to call it fears, because there are a lot of fear in society. Every day I'm chatting with my family, because even the connection is bad. I cannot call, I can just chat. And I feel that they're in fear. I think that the most important thing, let me explain it this way. No one expected that it might happen. Even before the invasion, I spoke with my country officials, and they told, we don't believe that it might be possible. We got this intelligence from America. We got this intelligence from our European partners. We know about the threat, but we don't believe that the war in the 21st century in the middle of Europe is possible. So right now, no one knows what will happen next.
Yeah.
So the only way to struggle with this uncertainty, with these fears, is just to be on your place, just to do your job, just to support your family and your friends, just to be as strong as you can.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's not about fears. For me, it's about challenges. The time is challenging. No one knows for how long my station will be able to stay on the air, to broadcasting. No one knows for how long time every Ukrainian city, every Ukrainian town, even the small village, will be able to support, to struggle against those Russian guys who came to our territory. But we just don't have any choice. We just have to believe, and we just have to be strong.
Up until the invasion, though, there was this kind of attitude that Western media, or specifically actually American media, was warmongering or like over exaggerating what was actually, going to happen. And in comparison, as you're saying, on the Ukrainian side, there may have been like a little bit of denial and like unpreparedness that this would actually happen. How do you think that in the future, journalists on both sides can better prepare people for this?
That's right. It was a feeling that on the very beginning, it was the feeling that American media and even American officials are a little bit overreacting. It was such a wrong feeling. People in my country, they got this feeling. Even officials in my country, they got this feeling. No one believed.
Yeah.
So right now, I think that the role of the media who are reporting on this, the level of I lost the world. I lost the. Can we cut?
Oh, don't worry, we can edit it, but just continue. Yeah.
Mhm. You know, when it started, American media told that invasion is on the eve, and a lot of people they doesn't believe it. I'm speaking about ordinary people, people from the street. I'm speaking about even the Ukrainian politicians. So right now, the lesson number one is that we have to believe more to serious media, to number one medias, because they got their sources, and even if they cannot call their sources or name their sources, uh, they gave this warning to Ukraine. They gave this warning that it might happen, and it happened. At the same time, look into a lot of media who were speculating on this. I saw even in a huge newspapers with a name, so not. Mm, we got these headlines that okay, the invasion will happen at the 10th, or the invasion will happen at 12th, and nothing happened. So how can you believe media after they're telling not about their suspicions, not about the versions, not about what they heard, but they're giving you the headlines like this?
Yeah.
Oh, so right now, all what happened, it gave a lot of questions about how can we believe media, and at the same time that we have to believe media, but we have just to choose.
Yeah. Um, Back to disinformation.
You know, it's we're living in a strange time when time to time the reality which is on the screen or on the web page or somewhere in the newspaper, there are two different realities.
Mhm.
So we're living in a time when everyone can make a deep fake, and the deep fake looks, you know, so similar to reality that you don't have any choice to, you don't have any opportunity to understand is it real or not.
Mhm.
So it's challenging and you know, oh, it's difficult to understand what to believe, whom to believe, if what I'm doing, and it's my recipe, and maybe it's the best way when I'm even receiving the information from some sources or even official sources. I'm always trying to double check with the people who are there, who are in their town, in their city, to the Facebook friends or friends of the friends or friends
Yeah.
of the friends of the friends. But right now, all of us were connected with the social media. So I think the best way is to double check, to triple check the information. But it is how it works for me.
Yeah. Um, Kremlin propaganda has seeped into the far right media in America, with disinformation and conspiracy theories being spread not only online but on television as well. How do you think American journalists can better fight against this?
I think that the truth is the best way.
Mm-hmm.
In my life, I got the time when, during the last revolution, I lost my position from. I was a news presenter of the show number one at that time, and I stepped up because it was the moment of the censorship in my country. I told myself, and I can't be on the screen anymore. And I worked as a local producer for the CBS News. Every day we made the stories for the CBS. Every day we told about the revolution in Ukraine, about those protests, about the people who were killed by the government forces. And you know, I understand, and it's the one of the most important lessons in my life. I understand that truth is the most important thing. When you got the crew on the ground, when it's not someone sitting in the studio somewhere in America or in any other European capital and just working with Reuters or other news sources and not seeing what happened by his own eyes. But when you got the crew on the ground, it is the best way to understand the truth, to understand the situation. So every large American media, they got their correspondents in Ukraine right now. So I think there is no lack of the truth. You just have to hear. You just have to open your eyes.
So you're quite approving of how American media is now covering Ukraine?
Absolutely. I'm following a lot of reportages. I'm following the work which my former colleagues and they're still my friends from the CBS News are doing. I think that American media, American television companies, they're doing a great job. I remember the moment of the invasion, the day of the invasion, CNN got their correspondents not only in Kyiv, not only in Odessa, my hometown, not only in Kharkiv, but in a lot of Ukrainian towns. The coverage was extremely correct. The coverage was extremely direct. So I'm really proud of the work which my American colleagues are doing now covering Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. What did the air in your sphere feel like working in DC, close to all the decision making and being in touch with your family back home in the lead up to the invasion?
Could you repeat the question? I haven't got it.
Like, what did the atmosphere feel like working in DC and also being in touch with your family back home in the lead up to the invasion?
Oh, I don't call it atmosphere, you know. You got the job. You got a lot of work right now. Previously, I was live or I made my reportage once a day. Right now, all the Ukrainian channels, they just joined their efforts. We got just one button in Ukraine, just one channel in Ukraine, and every news station is contributing. Every news station got their own 5 hours. So on every button, on every channel, national channel, I mean in Ukraine, we got just one German news. And you got your 5 hours. It may be in the morning, it may be during the afternoon, it may be late night. Yesterday I made my lives from Congress. I ended at 4 in the morning. So it's a lot of work, it's a lot of job, and it's a lot of willingness to do whatever you can just to inform the people about what's going on, what is real, what is not. And, you know, just about doing your job as good as you can. It's nothing that I can do. It's nothing that I can do more. I can support my family. I can support the people who are just in shock right now. And I'm doing it every day. I'm chatting, I'm calling, I'm trying to tell that, okay, we will struggle. You will be alive. We will meet. We will hug. One day, I don't know when, but one day, I believe it strongly. And at the same time, when you're at the air, you have to turn off your feelings and you have just to inform.
Yeah. From a Ukrainian perspective, what is the most important thing you want foreign correspondents to keep in mind when reporting on the war?
There are two things. One, I told you already, I think very much, I wish very much that reporters who will cover Ukraine will speak more about people. Not about politics, not about, you know, decision makers, not about reasons which one or another decision maker has, but more about people's lives. Because it's a tragedy for the country. The last figures which I got from the State Department, and I think they will change day to day, but the last figures which I got that 4.7 millions of Ukraine, so almost 5 millions of Ukraine just refugees right now. So they lost their houses, they went to European countries, they went to neighbor countries just looking for shelter. It's 10% of the population of the country right now, and I'm afraid it may be even worse. So one important thing is just always to think about people's life, not about the politicians, not about, these political reasons. And another one, I understand that media have to be, neutral. They have to tell about one position, about second position. They have to show different opinions. It's the nature of the media. It's the nature of the broadcasting or of the news reporting. And I was working like this for all my career, for all the years. But in the situation when the war is so deadly, when this war is so bloody, I wish very much that my American colleagues who are covering Ukraine, they will have more, personal feelings about what happened in my country. I catch myself that when I covered some conflicts, I got a feeling for those people who are in pain, but it was just a job for me. I wish very much that for my American colleagues, for my European colleagues, it will be a little bit more than just a job, because it's not only about Ukraine right now. What I heard and what a lot of experts told, that this war, unfortunately, if it will not be stopped in Ukraine, may just go to Europe, may just be more wide, more violent, more bloody. So I wish so very much that if anyone will report about Ukraine, being on the ground or sitting in their studios or in their home offices, that for them this topic about Ukraine, about this war, will be just a little bit more than just a job.
Yeah. In your last interview with the association, I remember you talking about the price of war, and that the more journalists are there increases the price of war for Putin. And that is one way that can dissuade Russia from continuing to progress their attacks. Do you still believe that? And can you expand upon it a little more?
What I heard from the sources I'm speaking to, and what I heard on the record from the American politicians or from the spokesperson, that Russia never expected that Ukraine will struggle so hardly. That their plan was to, capture all the country like in 5-7 days. And what I heard also that one of the ways, and maybe the only way to stop this war, is to increase the price of the war for Russia. So if Russia will see that country is losing military equipment, that country is losing economy, that country is losing their soldiers, and one moment they might stop. Not because they will decide to negotiate, not because even they got some signals from Washington or from Brussels or from London, but because the price of this war will be too high for them. It is the plan, and it is thoughts about which I heard in a lot of government institutions here in the United States. It's the understanding of the Ukrainian politicians. It's not, the good way. I wish it will be another way, just to stop it by the talks, by some, negotiations, by some guarantees which America or Europe may give to Ukraine. But right now, it's just seems like a real way to stop it. Just to, unfortunately, just to increase this price for Russia. I'm telling unfortunately because the price for Ukraine is increasing also.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of I mean, the power of the media when it comes to conflict, as was the case with the Vietnam War, journalism and media has been proven to sway the support of a nation's citizens and help put an end to unjust aggression. With Kremlin propaganda wall and the dissemination of disinformation running rampant, how can journalists actually reach the people of Russia?
It's a good question. From one hand, I think there are a lot of people who don't want to be reached, who are okay with those propaganda, who are okay with those reality, mostly virtual reality in which they're living. From another hand, I don't have anything against Russians as a nation. I got a lot of friends who are Russian. My native language is Russian. I'm from a Russian-speaking region of Ukraine, so it's not about the language, it's not about the culture, it's not about the hate, to Russians as a nationality. So I think that if people want to hear, they will have this opportunity just to Google, just to even if the social networks are locked in or blocked or banned in Russia, they have this opportunity to use the VPN and just to look for another opinion. Maybe if American media will, translate their programs into Russian, maybe if Voice of America or Radio Liberty will make more programs or even more translations into Russian, it will be a little bit easier to knock onto the door of the Russian audience, to those people who want to hear different opinion, different position, who want to hear the truth. But I think, unfortunately, in every country, not only in Russia, there are a lot of people who don't want to know the truth, who are okay with their life, with those reality, which is on the TV screen. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge for all of us.
Of course, yes. Um, are there any lasting lessons that you want journalists or just regular citizens, foreign or American, any lessons that can be taken from the progression of events, propaganda, everything leading up to the moment we are here at now?
If I may, I'd like to share you the main lessons I got from this situation and from this month of my life. Firstly, that you have to be very correct with the information. You have to check, you have to double check, you have to triple check, you have to call your colleagues. You don't have the right to believe even to the sources which to the people whom you know personally, because the price of the mistake is extremely high right now. I'll give you an example. We got a journalist who told a lot about this training camp in Ukraine, which about the territory on which Ukrainian military was studied with American or Western instructors. It is a territory, and it was a territory to which foreigners who want to struggle on the Ukrainian side came. And after a couple of, very open reportages, it was an airstrike on that territory. Not because of these reportages, but I think, and I'm afraid, that those reportages may influence onto Russia's decision to make an airstrike onto that camp, because they saw that, okay, there are a lot of foreigners, there are a lot of volunteers. It's a camp in which Ukrainian army got their training. So the lesson number one for me and for my colleagues, I spoke even yesterday. I spoke with a lot of my colleagues who are working all around the world, and they told me, okay, you have to be very correct with the information, and you have to understand the price of sharing even the correct information, because the price may be just the people's life. From the other hand, I understand that all of us, we have to be together. All of us, I mean, at the first hand, I mean the journalists. I'm happy very much that I'm the part of the U.S. Foreign Correspondents Association. I'm happy very much that I'm working as a member of U.S. Senate Correspondents Association, U.S. Congress Radio TV Correspondents Association, because time to time you just see each other, you say hello, you even don't know the name, you know that you're colleagues, but it's not more. And the lesson number two, the most important lesson for me, that all of us, the reporters, the journalists, the people who are working for media, we have to be together. We have to share the information. We have to help each other. Right now, during these days, I feel the strongest support in my life. I got my Polish colleague, we never met. She sent a text to me. She gave me a call. She told me, okay, I'm your Polish colleague. I'm working in Washington, D.C. You don't know me, but if you need my help, if you need my cameraman, if you need, anything, just call me every time of at the day or at night. And I think it should be like this, not only the wartime. I think that the support, the level of openness, the feelings that we're a community among the media reporters, among the journalists, it might be and should be much harder, much stronger. It's a lesson for me.
You may have already answered this, but how do you keep hope, and how do you hope that other people are keeping their hope as well?
Oh, it's a difficult question. I believe very much that we have to hope, even under the artillery, bombarding, even when your hometown is captured or destroyed, we have to hope. What's the alternative? Just to be in fear, just to be in your tears, just to cry. I don't think it's the right way to live. When it's about you, when it's about your country, when it's about everything which is going in this world, we have to have this hope. Same with Ukraine. I honestly don't know. Even working here in Washington D.C., not sitting somewhere in in the basement and hiding from the bombs, but even working in Washington D.C., speaking to politicians, speaking to congressmen, speaking to spokesperson. Even I don't know what will happen next. I think the same is with the politicians. The situation is extremely difficult. So even the decision makers number one in America, in Europe, in my country, they don't know exactly what will happen next. But what all of us, the ordinary people or those politicians, what we have, it's just the hope that one day we may stop it, that one day we may rebuild the country, that one day we may just see our loved one, just the hug, just the tell that we love them, we missed them so very much during those days. Maybe we don't telling this word right now when we got this, short sessions or Skype sessions, or even this small chats through the short messages or in messengers with the families, because it's not the time for emotions right now. It's not the time for telling about your emotions. You just have to survive. You just have to be strong. But I hope very much that one day it will be the time for those emotions. We're not, we're not canceling those emotions. We're just, I just keep them. I just keep them until the moment when I will be able to tell my family, my friends, the people I love, that, okay, we did it. we went through it. And I hope very much one day it will happen.
Thank you so much, Dmitry, for joining us. And thank you so much for sharing your just absolutely necessary and important perspective. Are there any other things that you'd like to add or say to your foreign press correspondents in the US?
I just want to thank everyone. I felt a lot of support from the colleagues, from the people I met, from the ordinary people who are just asking where are you from, and I'm telling I'm from Ukraine, and people telling, oh, I'm sorry. So I want to thank so very much for this personal support to me, as well as to support to my country. I feel it so very much. The country feels it so very much. So all that I want to tell at the end of our interview is just how grateful I am and all of us are for any support, any words, every interview, every news coverage. That's it.
Thank you so much.